Hello, everybody. Oh my god. Is my microphone working? It is. Right. Hello, everybody. We are back. Hopefully, you're all doing well in this morning. Long story short, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the weather is very inconsistent. 1 second. I'll just close my window very quickly because that noise seems to actually be coming in. I honestly don't know what's going to happen this weekend, guys. Great to see you in chat, Ardit. I don't know. The current plan, and Michael Massey has said that the objective is to race normally this weekend, i.e. to go through the scheduled sessions as planned, including qualifying on FP3. That's the plan. But as you know, plan isn't the same as actually executing something. So whilst F1 might want to race today and get the qualifying done, etc., etc., I'm not confident, guys, to be completely honest with you. We'll see what happens, and we're going to wait for updates because the Formula 2 pit lane opening has been delayed. So realistically, the first sprint is already somewhat delayed. So we're going to wait and see what happens in that regard, but honestly, I'm not especially optimistic. Even though the rain doesn't seem too bad from the images I've seen, the rain kind of comes and goes with intensity, or in terms of intensity. So I'm honestly not that confident. But we'll see. We're going to be here all day, basically, providing updates. So let's just be a bit more optimistic, perhaps, about things. But it could be a repeat of Spa in some regards. So let's see. Hopefully we don't spend our entire weekends just watching rain, but it's looking like we could be really just at the mercy of the weather here. So let's see, but for now we're just going to hope and pray that things get better. Honestly, I'll be spending most of this weekend just refreshing the FIA website and journalists' pages just to kind of wait for and see the latest updates, because it's going to be a question of there'll be a delay, and then after that you're just waiting for the next kind of update from a team, also from the FIA. If we don't have any running today, what could we see? We could see qualifying tomorrow. We could see the FP2 order determining the starting grid. Again, these are speculations. None of this is guaranteed or confirmed, but the reality is that given the weather and how things can change, there's nothing off the table. Anything could happen, and frankly, anything probably will happen. So let's see. I'm trying to be optimistic. I think that we'll see some running today at some point, but the issue is the rain will come and go, and because of that, it's going to be a question of, can the FIA get their timing right and get the cars out there when it's raceable? Because even though the forecast was heavy rain throughout, it's definitely been a question of how heavy is it and how light is it, because I think about 20-30 minutes ago, the rain wasn't too heavy, but it kind of goes up and down in its intensity, and that means it's hard to kind of gauge when do you go out. So it's about being quick, basically, and being ready to go out, when it is raceable. But the issue is, it's not raceable very often. I don't think so. I mean, it's a possibility, though. It's a possibility still. The most likely scenario I see is that we'll have qualifying on Sunday. But having the FP2 order determine the grid is an idea that's been floated around by quite a lot of people. So as ever, we're gonna just try and hope for the best. But I wouldn't be closed or opposed to any possible scenarios, because things can happen things can change very quickly, and with the weather, it's always hard to predict. What I would say is it rained heavily, I think on Thursday, and the pit lane was flooded. I'm not saying that will happen today, but what I am saying is the weather forecasts as we're seeing aren't to be completely distrusted. But as I've been saying the whole time, we'll see, guys, we'll see. Now, Formula 2 hasn't been officially delayed yet, but the pit lane opening has been, which is pretty much the same thing, it's axiomatic. But the issue is, I'm not I'm not confident, and the Sky Sports stream for Formula 2 hasn't begun, so we're not really getting many updates. FIA haven't said anything recently, so we're just still waiting. But guys in chat, let me know where you're watching from, how you're all doing. If you're watching Formula 2, if it will go ahead, who you'll be supporting. Because Formula 2, with the kind of F1 paddock or the F1 transfer saga coming to an end, it's very interesting. Because that elusive final seat alongside Valtteri Bottas at Alfa Romeo, it's still open to be taken. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't know, guys. But first of all, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to try and keep you guys entertained because honestly, for the next X amount of time, we don't know if we're going to see on-track action. We don't know what's going to happen. And breaking news, guys. I want to just show you guys right here my display. Breaking news as we're here live on stream. The F2 qualifying or the F2 sprint race has been delayed officially. That's not good news. That's not good news. So I'm going to just try and interact with you guys, and frankly, I think if we just talk with each other, this kind of stream will be far more interesting than it would have been ordinarily. Or I would say, you know, it's more fun to be able to kind of suffer through the rain when you're with other people than it is when you're just on your own. But it looks as though we are going to be seeing delays here, and they do seem somewhat inevitable at this stage. So we'll see what happens, but honestly, it's already been delayed. Yeah. Let's see, guys. Let's see, guys. The issue is that the Sky UK, like streaming or Sky UK in their broadcast, they haven't given us any info because they just began the broadcast like 2 minutes ago. So I'm not getting anything from them. I'm getting all my info from journalists on Twitter, basically, and from the FIA, but they themselves don't really say much until kind of last minute. So it's going to be a question of just looking out the sky and trying to see what's going on. But, yeah. I think it'll be a case of waiting and waiting this weekend, guys. So just stick with me because we're going to be here. Let's just see the weather now because they're doing the intro for the race. Let's just for a second wait and see, guys. Arda, is that on my stream or on your kind of TV feed? I feel as though... Guys, is my mic too loud? In chat, let me know. It does feel quite loud. Yeah, it's really heavy, guys. The cars are in the pit still, but... Well, guys, the rain, from what I'm seeing, is pretty heavy. It's not completely torrential rain, but it's relatively heavy. And the issue is, as we mentioned before, Sochi's like a flat track. There's no elevation change. It's just flat. What does that mean? That means that if it rains, it takes a long time for the rain to go away. So, yeah. It's been delayed. It's raining. It's still raining. And the issue is, unless there are cars out there on track, it's going to be very, very hard for the rain to drain. Because even though in Spa it rained quite heavily, when it stopped raining, things drained quite quickly. But in Sochi, with such a flat track, that's not going to be the same. A kind of GM8 it is. It's raining ridiculously hard. Ridiculously hard, unfortunately. Yeah, guys, it's just one of those weekends. To be fair, I think that we all saw this coming when we had the images of a flooded paddock a few days ago. So we could just be spending our entire days watching. But guys, all of you in chat, I am willing to go the distance and to just wait with you guys, because ultimately I'm going to be kind of, keeping all of you updated. Yeah, so yeah. Shockingly, the forecast says it's going to be raining. Yeah, I can't lie. I thought that was sarcasm. It is very wet. It is very wet. For those of you who aren't watching the Formula 2, there's no Formula 2. They're all kind of just waiting in their garages in the pit lane. And it is very wet. It's not completely torrential, but there's standing water and it's raining more. So, long story short, we're going to be in for a very long weekend, guys. But I'm going to try to keep you guys entertained, and we'll try and keep each other entertained. Afan, I think it starts late in the evening. So it's several hours until the second F2 race. But honestly, that's not really the concern for now, because there's obviously going to be delayed, obviously. So I'm not really focused on when it starts. I'm just focused on the here and now, and if there's weather, and if the weather is raceable to some degree. Well, Ralph Bashang with some jokes in team radio, but it is quite terrible, guys. Ah, 20-minute delay. So the next update, guys, for Formula 2 will be at 10:50 local time. So there won't be any F2 action for at least 15 minutes. And I realise for you guys watching, this is pretty boring. Well, it's not boring, but it's kind of not very exciting. But I'm just kind of trying to keep you guys posted. Well, guys in chat, try and keep me entertained. Jackie, very much so. I think we're all getting flashbacks to Spa, and it was a joke at first, but it's become quite serious because it's very much similar situation to Spa. Heavy rain for Formula 2. Afam, yes. I mean, I presumed it was quite obvious if you're online, but yep. It's raining pretty heavily. And as I've mentioned, and I think Alonso mentioned this on the Thursday kind of press interviews, the issue is that because it's so heavy, the rain, or sorry, because Spa is such a flat track, the rain doesn't really drain. It's just a nightmare, so... Yeah, Carnage, I mean, look, it's still fun to just at least, watch the F1 broadcast and such. and try to keep people updated. But and honestly, guys, it's just going to be about watching the rain. It's going to be watching the rain and just hoping that it eases up. The forecast for today has changed slightly. So the initial forecast was heavy rain, but the forecast is now it'll be heavy, then light, heavy, then light. So because of that, there's a chance that at some points this weekend, the track's going to be dry. But the key is if the FIA are going to be fast enough to get the cars out there when it's still raceable. That's going to be the key. Because the forecast is that... Hold on, guys. I'll show you the forecast. So these were some of the forecasts for today. Let me show you guys. Dylan, by the way, guys, if you need, please do subscribe. I'm going to be here all day trying to update you guys. Dylan, no, it wouldn't. Well, actually, I think it's partly why they've taken the penalty now, because we might not even see qualifying at this rate. I think they'll have qualifying at some point this weekend. It's just whether we're going to have qualifying today or on Sunday. If you go back to Japan 2019, we had qualifying and race both on Sunday, which was actually pretty cool. So it can and has happened before. So we'll see. We'll see. But if you're new, guys, please do subscribe. I'm going to be here all day just trying to survive with you guys. So yeah. But honestly, it's not looking very promising. The rain is pretty intense. It's pretty intense. And of course that can change. But because of the flat nature of the track, the rain won't really go. So guys in chat, just let me know where you're watching from. If it does rain, who you think could take pole? Though frankly, qualifying does seem a very long way away. And it's a shame because qualifying was supposed to be at 1 UK time, BST, earlier than usual because it's in Russia. A great scene chat, Shizura, you ask, will it rain in the race? I think we'll have some rain, but it won't be heavy rain. The forecast for tomorrow is that it should be dry with some spells of rain. So for tomorrow, I'm not too concerned. I think that it'll be dry enough to race. It's just that for today, it's going to be, I think, very, very wet, basically, simply put. It's going to be very, very wet. But, you know, things can change very quickly in F1. And I think there are going to be spells where it's dry. It's just a question of, will the cars be out on track at the right time to kind of take advantage of the drier air conditions? Because for now, it's looking like it's just going to be wet for a while. Thank you very much for the sub, Mohith Pujari. Thank you very much. Guys, if you're new, please do sub, and you get a lovely little notification up there. But for now, it's just rain time. But in chat, do let me know where you're watching from, who you're supporting. And if it does rain, I think this does favour Verstappen. Because starting from the back of the grid, if there is a wet race, then there'll be more DNFs, so it'll be easier for him to gain places, there'll be more safety cars. So I think these conditions do play into Verstappen's hands. Hamilton, of course, is fantastic in the wet, but I think that if you're Verstappen starting from last place, you want it to rain to kind of add a spanner in the works for the race, because that somewhat negates, or at least limits, the impact of that grid penalty. Great to see you in chat, mate. I can't read that name because those letters aren't in English, but great to see you, mate. Hopefully you're doing okay. And thanks to all of you who are watching the stream and supporting. I appreciate all of you massively. The quality of team radio is quite incredible, guys. The team radios from the different drivers is quite hilarious. It's actually quite beautiful. The one good thing about these conditions is that when it rains, the drivers start saying the most weird things on team radios. In Spa, we heard about Hamilton and his scary poo that he saw. So you could see more of that. Ada, great to see you in chat, mate. I'm doing well. I mean, Dylan, yeah, I mean, realistically, if it rains and it's a wet race, a safety car is basically guaranteed. So that's going to make things very interesting in that regard for Red Bull. And Matthew, that's the thing. Even though, of course, you want to be starting in first, as we saw in Hungary, if it's a wet start and it's slippery, there's a risk that if you're starting near the front, you can be taken out, as Verstappen found out in Hungary. So even though starting last isn't a good thing, if it's a wet race tomorrow, then starting last for Max is by no means the worst thing in the world. So I think that in that regard, Max would be hoping that it rains all weekend. because it just destabilizes things and it makes it harder for Mercedes and for Hamilton to kind of cash in on his penalty. Carnage, very cool, mate. And ANVR watching from Pakistan. Great to see you, mate. That's very cool. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully we can see some racing today, though for now it is very wet. I think realistically, guys, what was also worth noting is that because of the nature of this weekend where we've got F2, F3 and F1, F1, they'll obviously prioritize the Formula 1. Thank you very much for the sub. Hello world, thank you very much. But the priority is obviously Formula 1. What does that mean? That means that if they have to prioritize F1 qualifying or Formula 3 Sprint Race 2, they'll prioritize F1 qualifying. Which is why I believe that even though some people have said we're going to be seeing, FP2 dictate the F1 starting grid, I think that if push comes to shove, F1 and the FIA, they'll prioritize the Formula 1 over the Formula 2 and the Formula 3. So I think that we're going to see F1, FP3 qualifying and the race. It's just a question of when. Will it be today on schedule? Will it be tomorrow? That's the big question to me. Eduardo, colega, great to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. Watching from Brazil, very cool. Ayush, I think Leclerc has always been very good in the wet, even though in Spa the Ferrari struggled. In Imola they were both very quick, and in Turkey last year as well, Leclerc and Vettel were pretty quick too. So I think that generally speaking, Ferrari are going to be good in these conditions. They'll be pretty quick. It's just a question of, is it going to be able to rain for them to actually, or is there any going to allow for actual racing? I think that's the main question here today. So we'll see, guys, but I think that if it does rain and if there is an actual race, Leclerc's in a very good place, for sure. And as I said, Leclerc and Verstappen at the back, the worst place to be in the wet at the start is like in the midfield, because there's a chance that you'll either mess up yourself or somebody behind you will lock up. And because you can't see anything, it's almost better to start last and just avoid the carnage into turn 1. Because in Hungary, as we saw, that's going to be a very big thing. Hello, Hat. No one knows, of course. I mean, literally nobody knows what's going to happen at this point. What I would say, though, is that things can change very quickly. It'll be a question of the FIA being on their toes so that when it does start drying out, they're ready. But if I'm being honest, I don't know. And frankly, nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It'll be a question of just being aware, just being ready for any changes. Just watching the track right now, it's still pretty wet. I mean, look, guys, I'm struggling to find out what to say. Yeah, boy, Jeff, great to see you, mate. Any update yet? It's raining the same, pretty heavily. It's not like torrential, like rainy season in Africa type rain, but it's still pretty heavy, and it's already quite wet as it is. So that's the issue. No, I don't show the race. It says in the title, watch along, very clearly. I don't show the race. Matthew, yes, I mean, that's easier in theory than in practice, but for sure, he'll be trying to just stick with Max if possible in the conditions. But of course, it'll depend on his start, the visibility, etc. Luca Boles, great to see you in chat, mate. Amatofosis, I really hope both Leclerc and Sainz win the race. I mean, look, I don't think that we'll be seeing them. I'm not going to predict anybody to win the race. What I'm going to say is that Leclerc and Sainz are pretty good in the wet, and that Sainz has a good chance, and that Leclerc will have a chance to kind of fight his way up the field throughout the race. So I'm interested to to see what happens throughout the weekend. But I don't know. Your boy Jeff says Belgium version 2.0, and it really is at this point. It's quite sad in a way. But it's one of those things that happens now. Dean Spence says that I look like Jude Bellingham. Let's test that. Let's test that theory. The Bayern player. So not the Bayern, the Dortmund player. Jude Bellingham. Do I look like Jude Bellingham? A little bit. I mean, I think we're both mixed race, but he's got like, I think, a slightly smaller face and a better haircut. But I kind of do, so I see that. That's fair enough. That's fair enough, mate. I mean, then obviously, if Hamilton DNFs, that's obviously going to help Max. That's pretty obvious. Yes, it would. But I'm not going to predict a Hamilton DNF already. Yes, they counts. I'm back. No, Dylan, no, I know that he plays for Dortmund. Don't be silly. Don't be silly. If they counts, yep, I am back. I am back streaming for the F1 as always. Committed as ever. Though I am very conscious that this could be a very long evening for us, guys. A very long day. Though we are back with the safety car. So, I think